Okay, so here is a sequence for a stiff back. Grab a towel just in case to give you a couple of options. So we start with cat-cow. So you come onto your hands and knees, knees underneath the hips, hands underneath the shoulders, spread the fingers wide. So you're distributing the weight across the hands, so all four corners of the palm, and a gentle pressure into the fingertips. And then we want to keep the shoulders just drawing away from the ears. So you feel as if there's length in the whole of the spine. So right from the crown of the head to the tailbone. On the inhale, as we lift the gaze a little, broaden the sit bones and broaden the collarbones, and feel as if you're lengthening the spine and not just compressing in the low back. Your exhale, the belly draws away from the floor. Feel a wave of movement as the tailbone tucks under and the spine rounds, and finally the chin under. So inhaling, lengthen. Exhaling, round the spine, curling under the tailbone and the chin. Feel a wave of movement, sit bones lift and the collarbones lift. And then tucking the chin, pushing into the hands and rounding the spine with your exhale, belly draws back. And let's do 3 more of these. So you want to do 5 or 6 breaths. And don't rush. Take your time to inhale and feel every segment of the spine as much as you can moving. And if the extreme points of the movement feel uncomfortable on your back, just make it smaller. Last one to exhale, pushing into the floor. And then we're going to sit back into child's pose. So keeping the hands exactly where they were, letting the sit bones come back towards the heels, and then you can let the elbows drop and let the head come down. So a couple of options here if it doesn't feel comfortable. If your knees don't like being in full flexion, pop a cushion or a towel underneath the sit bones and stay a little lifted. And equally, if your head is nowhere near the floor as you come into child, you can pop a towel underneath the head so that you don't feel unsupported. The other option with child's pose is to take the knees really wide. And when my back is stiff, this feels much nicer. So relax the arms down. See if you can relax the head and the neck. And then see if your breath can expand the back of your body. So as you breathe in, feel the posterior ribs expanding, maybe even the sides of your waist expand as the belly distends with your in-breath, and then relax into it a little bit more on the exhale. And here again, stay for around about 5 or 6 breaths. If your shoulders are tight, you can have the arms wider. This is really about trying to relax the belly here and relax the spine. And really notice the movement around the spine as you breathe. Take one more breath. And then we're going to transition into a downward facing dog. And if you have any problems with shoulders and wrists and downward facing dog isn't for you, then I would do another cat-cow or just leave this section out. Otherwise, come back to your starting position, tuck the toes, and you're going to lift the hips. So the ears are more or less between the arms. Keep the arm muscles firm as you press the hands into the floor. Straighten one leg as you bend the other. So you feel a stretch down the calf, the hamstring, and then swap that over. And just do a few more on each side. Feeling the stretch come into the back of the legs. Keeping the sit bones lifted, so we don't want to be too rounded in the spine here. Nice. And then we drop back to hands and knees. The next one is a little hip flexor stretch. So step 1 foot forwards. The back foot can be up or down, toes tucked under or foot flat, as you wish. And the key here is to tilt the pelvis backwards so the tailbone lengthens and you feel a stretch right in the front of the hip here. Relax through the shoulders. Your hands can rest on the thigh, on your hips or to your sides. And again, 5 or 6 slow and steady breaths, but keeping that really subtle movement of the pelvis, tail tucking under. So you feel the intensity here. It can be even nice to give it a little rub. Nice. Bring the hands to the floor as you take that knee back. Do one more cat-cow for luck. And then when you're ready, step the other foot forwards. Find a nice steadiness here. Hands can rest on the thigh. And again, lengthen the back of your body. Tummy muscles draw up. So you're tilting the pelvis and you feel more of an intense stretch on the front of your other hip, the hip flexors. So here we more or less want the hip above the knee on the floor, rather than dropping down too much here. We've got both knees at 90 degrees and this hip at 90 degrees. Tucking the tailbone under subtly to isolate that area at the front of the hip. Taking a few steady breaths here. And then bringing the hands back, taking the knees back and to your chosen child's position with any support that you need. Let the elbows drop. If you don't have a towel for your head and you need it, you can just stack the hands and rest your head on the hands. Take another couple of breaths here. Breathing into the back of the body. And then our last stretch is at the wall. So coming to the wall, having a good foot or so between your sit bones and the wall, relaxing through the upper body. Do pop your towel under your head if you feel it needs some support. Straighten the legs, cross the right ankle over the top of the left knee, keeping the sides of the waist long and the hips steady. Start to bend the foot, bend the knee as you slide the foot down the wall. So we're aiming for a stretch here in the right buttock. If you need to, you can come onto the ball of that foot to intensify the stretch. Upper body relaxed, belly relaxed, shoulders relaxed, neck relaxed. And breathe into the stretch that you feel. By all means, you can have a hand gently guiding the knee out to the side. For me, I find that puts too much tension in my body and I feel a strong enough stretch here. You can always shuffle a little closer to the wall if you need a bit more. This is about where you feel it. You want to feel it in the right buttock, maybe lateral hip. 5 or 6 steady long breaths here. And then slide the foot up the wall, uncross the legs, take the feet wide and just rock a little before you take it to the other side, lining up the foot with the hip, crossing the ankle over the knee, sliding the foot down the wall until you feel a stretch in the other hip. Support the knee or not as you wish, keeping the upper body relaxed. If you wish for a little more intensity, you can come up onto the tiptoes of the foot on the wall. And again, take 5 or 6 steady breaths here. So once you get the hang of this routine, then stay longer with each one. If there's tension that's built up through the lower body and the back. And then coming out of it, straighten the leg, separate the feet, and just for the last few breaths, if you've got time, stay in this position for another 5 to 10 minutes, letting the legs really relax, letting the back sink into the floor, and letting the breath soften. So this is a really great one to do at the end of the day, especially when you're struggling with back pain. or your back has become really tight, to come into this almost like a recovery position for the back. Enjoy.